Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the QWERTY Writing Life Podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up.
So you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee,
and let's get started. Okay, hello everyone.
Hello.
It is another week, and we are happy to be here with you. And we have something that we think is kind of special. We hope you think it's special too. Good. And Joy and I actually got to have a guest lecture at a university creative writing class. And we wanted to share some of that talk with you guys. So what we've done is we recorded the two parts that we felt would be relevant for the QWERTY Writing Life podcast listeners, potential viewers if you're on YouTube. So our first episode is going to be about our shoulda, coulda, wouldas. So the things that we wish we would have known before we knew them.
Exactly. So thank you to Carey University's Language and Literature Department for inviting us to speak. We had a great time.
We did, and we hope that you enjoy this episode.
Yes, definitely.
So while we were in college, in retrospect, what knowledge would we have benefited us if we had known it earlier? And so that's what we're going to talk to you about now. So you want to go first?
Okay, so business information. All right, so this is the thing. Like May mentioned earlier, if you plan to do anything with writing, and honestly, this probably can go for a lot of other things as well, especially if you're thinking in terms of freelance, kind of doing your own business kind of thing, you need to understand business. And that's something that I wish I could have taken some classes, some business classes, some, things like that to just kind of prepare me for. Oh, perfect. Yes, so when you're a writer, whether it's journalist, blogger, indie published, self-published, traditionally published, it doesn't matter how you publish, you are your own business. And so you need to know how to run that. And that includes things like how to market yourself, how to brand yourself, how to, the legalities, how to set up a business. Who do you need on your team? Do you need a CPA, an accountant, which are different? You may or may not know that. Do you need a lawyer? Do you need to set up as an LLC? Do you need to set up, anyway, the list goes on.
Copyright, trademark,
yes.
All of that stuff. And we have a handy book. Miss Jane Friedman actually wrote a wonderful book to help people who are looking to become writers in the business of being a writer. So if you have not heard of this book, we would love for you to take note. So the next thing and these could be life things too. So yes, maybe it could be about writing, but the next one is kind of about life as well. So the next one that I wanted to talk about was perspective. So Joy and I wish that we would have had the ingenuity, the determination, and the imagination to turn our passions into a way to make a profit. Rather than trying to find a sliver of what we love in a traditionally established career. And if we would have done that, I'm sure that Logos and Mythos would be about 15 years old now. And
oh, don't depress me.
Oh, no. So, and of course we also have to look at who we were whenever we were in college as well. But it would have been really, really great if maybe we could have pinpointed our passions and been able to figure out a way to manipulate that into a way to make money now.
And I think that that's something that you can do with anything. If you have a passion, if you have something that really just drives you, there is a way to find a way to make that your job even. You might have to come about it in a very imaginative way, like we keep saying that word, but I always wanted to be an author. I mean, from super little, I wanted to be an author. And when it came down to it, my first job was at the Wayne County News. So that would have been the year between my sophomore and junior years in high school, was when I first wrote for a newspaper, and I immediately knew I loved it and I wanted to do that. And so I really did love that. But there was still that little nagging thing, and even when I took my first job straight out of college, like there was always that, man, I really wanted to be an author. Like and then I just immediately shut it off. Like every time I just immediately shut it off. I was like, there's no way, I can't make money doing that, so I'm just gonna, whatever. And I completely shut it down at that point in my life. And then finally I just couldn't shut it down anymore. And I was like, I gotta figure out a way to make this work. So,
yeah. Just gotta figure a way to make it work. I like that. Bend it to your will.
There you go.
I have a similar story, just with different details. I started telling other people's stories because I didn't think that it would work out for me to tell my own stories. And I was in customer service a lot. So I sold food, and I sold jewelry, and I sold things that had been pawned. I worked at a pawn shop for a while. It was the worst job that I've ever had in my life. So I crafted these stories and sold other people's things and sold other people's ideas and dreams, and did not sell my own. So in 2016, I guess maybe about a year before that. No, that's not true. That's not true. The first dated draft that I have for a story that no one will ever see is 2009.
Oh,
so
you'll show it to me, right?
Maybe not.
She's afraid I'll make her read it on the podcast.
It's so bad, y'all. The title is Wild Hope. Yeah, it's that bad. So I had been thinking and dreaming about this in secret and in the dark, in the shadows, since 2009, and it took saying it out loud to joy in 2016 for something to ever really happen about it. From 2009 to 2016, I'd been studying the craft of writing. I'd been figuring out how to do a story. I'd been figuring out how to fail at writing a story. And I had done it without anybody knowing. No one knew, because I was scared. And that kind of leads straight into our next one, which is self-worth. So for a really long time, my self-worth was determined upon the consumer response to my art. And this started early. This started like in middle school. And so whenever somebody didn't like what I had written, or I wasn't chosen for something, or maybe even if they said that it was great and I should continue, all of that, that kind of roller coaster of feelings, that was how I decided if I was worth something or not. So if I could do this again, something beneficial would be to know earlier that my self-worth is not based upon somebody else's response to my art, and that my self-worth and my self-identity is actually based in my relationship with Christ, and my beliefs, and my knowledge of my beliefs, and my knowledge of my idiosyncrasies, and who I am as a person. So here's kind of how I feel about this. My art only shows a piece of me. And I say art because writing is definitely an art, but there's also more than that. There's painting, and there's drawing, and there's how you cultivate your life on a day-to-day basis. It can be creative, and it can be artful. But even all of that, it still only represents a piece of me. I haven't made anything yet that represents my entire being. So when that happens, I'll probably die or something. But as is right now, I have only been able to create something that represents a piece of me, whether it's silly or sad, whether it's introspective and just enlightening, whatever it is, it's still only this small sliver, right? So you, as a reader and a consumer of art, you filter my art and other people's art through your experiences and your beliefs and your worldviews and your convictions and your personal preferences. So your response to my art is only half dependent on the actual art. And if I hinge my worthiness on something that is only a singular part of me and half you, then I'm doomed to disappointment. forever and ever, over and over again. And it's this roller coaster of highs and lows that's something that I can't control and something that I can't predict. And honestly, it makes me tired thinking back on all of the experiences that I've had in the past that have, dictated how I feel about myself. So if I could do it again, I would be more secure, and I would place my faith and my trust and my worth on solid ground. Okay.
Oh. All right. So that made me think about my first job. This is just keeps popping things up in my mind. My editor. So that would have been the first time that I really had someone outside of school edit my work and give me feedback. And at first it stung. It hurt. It was hard. I felt, like you said, that it was an attack on me as a person. But then I started to realize this is making me better. This is making my writing better. And I actually got to the point where I remember being here and going to my peer editors on the newspaper and my professor at the time, and actually asking for them to rip apart everything that I wrote and begging them to make the red pen bleed on my papers because I wanted to be better. And so that was quite a shift. So if I could, I'm glad that I did have that shift at that point, but I think that I would have learned even more in those first opportunities had I had that from the beginning. So yeah, something very, very important.
Another thing that I think would have been beneficial, is if I did not give fear like such a primary advisor position in my life. So, and in my decision making. So there were a lot of things that I didn't do while I was in college because I was scared and I was fearful of the outcome, of the responses, of if I would find out that I didn't have it, or I didn't have the persistence or the confidence or the whatever, To me, at the time, it was better to be in the dark about that sort of thing. And now I just want everything exposed. I just where am I failing? Where are my strengths? So what I'd come to find out in my life as I've experienced these different things, and I'm 36 years old now, and I'm quite the adult, I have found that fear is an indication of change. And if you are not in grave mortal danger, fear is something that is just telling you that something is about to change and it's going to affect your status quo. And it doesn't like that. It's going to affect your status quo because it's quite comfortable with it. So fear is not necessarily something to say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to experience this because I'm afraid of it. I'm not going to write this because I'm scared of how it's going to make me feel. I'm not going to pursue this because it might not work out and it might devastate me. But what if it doesn't, guys? What if it doesn't devastate you? What if it's something that you love and it's something that you pursue and it turns out right? You'll never know that if you let yourself stop and put this shield of fear and hide behind it in this little fetal position, shivering and crying. And that was me. I was too fragile. Don't be fragile.
Don't be fragile.
Be anti-fragile. So.
Yeah, I actually started my creative writing pursuit, I guess you could say, I guess it would have been 2010.
I was fixing to say that's too coincidental.
Yeah, I think it's 2010 because my youngest one was about a year old. And I started working on writing some books, wrote some children's books, things like that. And then I let fear stop me. I did. I gave into it and decided that maybe I couldn't do it after all. And so I let that rule me until 2016 when I was like, you know what? No more. I'm done. I can do this and I'm gonna do this. So yeah. So don't let fear stop you from whatever it is that your dreams are, whatever your passions are.
I also think that fear made me hesitate and actually just be petrified, stand still. I was not able, let's just forget all of that. I'll cut that out of the podcast.
No, you won't, because that's funny.
So something that I wish I would have done when I was in college is I wish that I would have found mentors. I wish that I would have been able to get the gumption to go up to Allison Chestnut and say, I want to write things and I would like for you to help me as a student. And I did not major in English, Dr. Chestnut. I was too scared to major in English. I minored in English.
Close enough.
I know. I was too scared. It was, I wanted to write. I wanted to learn creative writing, but it was one of those things that I let fear kind of block me from. So I took the scholarship for speech and debate, and I became a speech communication and theater major, because that's not scary, guys. No, there was no logic. There was no logic there whenever I was making my college decisions. But I do wish that while I was surrounded by all of these people of such great knowledge, I would have taken advantage of that. So can I encourage you to do so? And I honestly think that one of the benefits of being in a small school is that you know your professors in a way that allows you to walk up to them and say, hey, I was wondering if maybe I could meet with you and you could read this and you could tell me what you think. And maybe I could meet with you every other week or once a month or something like that, and we could talk about this kind of thing. And I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like some, if not all of them, would say yes. I also wish that I would have tried new things. And I guess that kind of falls under the same thing. I'd like to have tried new things. So naturally, poetry was my outlet because that's just how it came out. It just came out in rhythm and sometimes in rhyme and in metaphors and visuals. That's just how it came out. But what I do think is if I would have practiced other creative skills, that I would have found other ways to express myself and also have built up these other skills in order to express how I see the world. If you're naturally good at something, that's amazing. There's still improvement, of course, in everything. But if you've been thinking about, maybe you're good at poetry and you've been thinking about trying a short story outlet, or maybe you've been thinking about taking vocal lessons or some other way of expressing yourself creatively, now's the time to do it. You're in college, guys. This is where you can try all different kinds of things and find out if you like it or not, or if it's worth it. I will tell you that learning how to practice is huge. Learning how to set aside time to learn something new, to cultivate a craft is huge, because if you want to be a writer, there is a lot of practicing and there's a lot of cultivating skills and sometimes cultivating new skills that you didn't expect that you would have to do. So there are going to be aspects in your career that you're not going to expect, and it might not flow directly from your English major, but you're going to have to learn something that's outside of your lane. And you're going to need to practice it, and you're going to need to become proficient in it because your job is going to say you have to.
Anything that I want to learn how to do it, I don't know how to do it, I'm going to find a way to learn how to do it. And I think that that's very important, really, in any career, but especially in creative careers, just that willingness to learn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I also wish I would have had more self-awareness. This would have made me a more confident person. I think that self-awareness also helps with imposter syndrome, and it also helps with procrastination. So if you know when you're procrastinating, you can stop it. So a lot of times I just didn't even know that I was procrastinating. But may I encourage you to take time to ask and answer the hard questions. So Joy mentioned one of the hard questions, and I laughed when she said this one. One of the hard questions is, what hill will you die on? What will you absolutely not compromise on? And outside of that, you know that there's wiggle room, that there's room to move in and out. So if something is not exactly the way that you want it, if that's not the hill, you know? So you can work on that. What is your foundation? And I just talked about self-identity and how separating that response to art is not the foundation. So for me and for Joy, our foundation is rooted in Christ, in our relationship with Christ. But what is your foundation? That's a hard question. What is your purpose? What is your passion? What do you want to be? What do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want your life to look like? Not just centered around you and what you want to be, but do you want to be married? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to be single? Do you want to be traveling? Do you want to own a nonprofit organization? Like, what do you want it to look like outside of you? What excites you? What scares you? Why are you procrastinating, really? Those things, if you are able to find the answers of that, then wowee, you're going to be ahead of the game. So writing has a way of pulling these things out of you, whether you want it to or not. So we have found both have personal stories about how we're writing fictional stories. Mine is a comedy, and I'm over here crying because I just figured out something about myself, guys. And I'm like, so writing has a way of purging you of these things and making you look at it, look at yourself straight in the mirror and find all of these things that you didn't know about yourself. And then you have to deal with them, okay? So get ahead of the game. And publicizing your art can strip you down to a skeleton too, if you let it. So be introspective, it's helpful. I think this one's yours.
Yeah, so I think this is the last one, and then we're going to close with a challenge, make what we said there about our challenge.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so mine is humility, okay? This is something that I wish that I had been more humble, I think. And it really goes back to the willingness to be critiqued, to be revised, to be edited. And yes, I had that to some extent because once I realized that it made my writing better, I craved that, but I still lacked some of that humility that I wish I had had at that point. And here's the thing, and I know that we all have seen these authors who are very full of themselves. Okay, I'm not gonna say any names, but there are some. But here's the thing, there's no place for excessive hubris in writing. Okay, you have to understand that you don't know everything, and that, and this is something we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is that this is a field where you're constantly learning, and we actually already mentioned that too, that you're not going to be perfect. You can improve, no matter how good you think you are. There's always something that you can improve and be better with. And so I was blessed to have a host of outstanding editors behind me as I grew up in the journalism field and here on campus and all of these things. So learning to accept that constructive criticism and not just accept it, but to implement it and then to seek for it, to actually go out and ask for it are just really the best things.
And build upon it.
Yeah, and build upon it, exactly. So the more you take that in and the more you learn from it and the more you put it back into your writing or whatever it is that you do, then the better you're gonna be. And it goes to Proverbs chapter 4, verse 5. This came to my mind today and I had to jot it down so I could remember the reference to give you guys, but it says, get wisdom, get understanding. And that whole book is not necessarily about just learning more stuff. It's not necessarily about the knowledge part of it. It's about the wisdom part. And the wisdom part is understanding where all of that comes from, that it comes from God, and also understanding what we're to do with it. And that it's not about us necessarily. And so yeah, I love that book.
I think that the word there is excessive. Excessive hubris.
Yes.
Because I do think that it takes a certain amount of hubris to sit down at a computer and type out chapter 1 and think that you can write a book.
That's true. That's true.
I think it does.
There has to be the perfect marriage of humility and confidence.
You do have to have an amount of hubris in order to sit there and say, I'm going to create a world. I'm going to make people out of nothing, right? So you have to have that. And when you sit down and it messes up, you also have to be like, this is harder than I thought. Just because I can read and just because I know the alphabet and I can put words together into a sentence and I know that you need a subject and a verb and a period at the end of it, that's not enough in order to know that you can, to create a story. That's not enough. But to admit that to myself and to be like, Megan, you're not as cool as you thought you were, that's where I think some people might not go to that step, and you're sticking at that place where it's like, I can do this. I don't need an outline. I don't need to plan anything. I am that good. That is the problem, I think. So,
or if you don't think you need, an editor, or we run into that a lot.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
So we help people too who want to write stories, and we read for them, and we and Joy actually has a whole freelance editing service. So if you ever want her to edit your stuff,
or hire,
you can go to her website. You'll see.
So we always end our podcast with what we call our QWERTY challenge. Okay, so I think that from answering this question, our challenge for you guys would be what we talked about just a minute ago. What is your foundation? What's your purpose? Okay, for you guys to go and be introspective, like really think about, what do you want in life?
Yes.
What do you see yourself doing? And don't be like me. Don't let those fears shut off whatever it is that's in your mind. Go ahead and write it down if you need to. I love journaling. I'm a huge fan of journaling. So write it down in a journal if you do that, or whatever it takes, and then think it through. Think through like, okay, well, how can I get there? How can I make this happen? Just all of those things.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think QWERTY Writing Life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think QWERTY Writing Life rocks ice for real,
Oh my word.
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.